Nothing gets a film fan's heart pumping quite like a good war movie. Whether it's a slow, thoughtful meditation on the nature of violence and humanity like Terrence Malick's portentous epic The Thin Red Line, a horrifying reminder of war's human cost like Oliver Stone's operatic Vietnam tragedy Platoon, or even a weepy tragedy filled with jaw-dropping depictions of battlefield horrors like Steven Spielberg's uncharacteristically brutal Saving Private Ryan, there's a war film for every viewer. Everyone's familiar with the true classics of the genre, like the aforementioned trio of World War II and Vietnam epics, but the war genre also has a lot of hidden gems audiences tend to sleep on, a lot of which were actually made over the last 25 or so years. So, I'm Ewan from What Culture, and here are the 10 most underrated war movies of all time. Number 10. Casualties of War. Probably the hardest film to watch on this list, and one of the more brutal true stories to come from the Vietnam conflict. Brian De Palma's unflinching Casualties of War follows a group of US soldiers attempting to cover up the brutal gang rape and murder of a Vietnamese civilian by their number during the American invasion of the country. Anchored by a pair of staggering turns from Michael J. Fox as a rare soldier with some semblance of a conscience, and Sean Penn as the ruthless, inhuman instigator of the pivotal atrocity, this sparse and vicious film is a brutal reminder of the amoral reality of modern conflict, and a sobering rejoinder to the many films depicting American soldiers as victims in Vietnam, which in turn erase the lived experiences of the Vietnamese people. Number 9. Michael Collins. More a biopic than an out-and-out war film, but one that fits the bill all the same, Neil Jordan's 1996 epic set during the Irish War for Independence and then the Irish Civil War that followed is a genuinely great film. One that, although liberal with history, serves as one of the true great films set during Revolutionary Ireland. Eclipsed a decade later by Ken Loach's The Wind That Shakes the Barley, Michael Collins still remains a fantastic feature about one of the key figures in the Irish War for Independence. Liam Neeson does a tremendous job as the ill-fated revolutionary, and is backed up by a tremendous cast of co-stars including Alan Rickman, who plays Eamon de Valera, Julia Roberts, and Brendan Gleeson. It's full of drama and suspense, and while it does take some creative liberties with the past, it still provides an authentic depiction of the Irish struggle against the British Empire, conveying the ruthlessness of the British occupation and the subsequent revolt in sometimes harrowing detail. Number 8. Hacksaw Ridge. Okay, this might be very wild to include Hacksaw Ridge in a list of underrated war movies, but also Will left it off the best war movies ever list, shakes fist angrily, and so it only makes sense to put it on here instead. Hacksaw Ridge has the unfortunate quality of being a very good film directed by an awful person, but thankfully there's much more that goes into it being an amazing feature than just the person behind the camera. Based on the real-life story of pacifist medic Desmond Dross's experience during the Battle of Okinawa, Hacksaw Ridge offers a chilling and yet inspirational account of the man who enlisted in the US Army not to take lives, but to save them. Andrew Garfield turns in the performance of his career so far as Dross, while the film itself also offers one of the most harrowing depictions of the war in the Pacific. Number 7. Enemy at the Gates. Enemy at the Gates may be weird in the sense it tells a Russian story using British and American actors, but it's still a rollicking good time. Taking place during the Battle of Stalingrad, a major turning point in Hitler's invasion of the USSR and indeed World War II as a whole, Enemy at the Gates focuses on the compelling real-life duel between a Soviet sniper, Vasily Zaitsev, played by Jude Law, and his German counterpart Erwin Koenig, portrayed by Ed Harris. The cast also includes Rachel Weisz as sniper Tanya Chernova and the late Bob Hoskins as a wartime Nikita Khrushchev. It features some wonderful set pieces, some great performances, and all in all, it's one of the most suspenseful World War II movies that's been released in recent years. The chaos and terror of Stalingrad is punctuated by the incisive nature of Zaitsev's many sniper duels, making Enemy at the Gates one of the more unique World War II movies, and one far more deserving than its 54% average on Rotten Tomatoes. Number 6. Jarhead. Directed by American beauty helmer Sam Mendes, Jarhead was released in 2005 to a rapturous chorus of "huh?" from audiences and critics alike. Not unlike Richard Kelly's Southland Tales, this Gulf War set flick had a hard time selling audiences on the strange and strangely funny anti-war message it carried. However, unlike Southland Tales, Jarhead did have an extraordinary central performance from a young Jake Gyllenhaal, some stunning visuals, and most pointedly a believable meditative depiction of everyday life in the military, which carries far more weight than many of the more rambunctious and explosively inaccurate film versions of army life. The film may be slow and seem slightly aimless, but there's a good reason for it. By the end of this singular journey, the viewer is left as shook, lost, and disoriented as the young soldiers who landed into the Gulf were by their first tours of duty. Number 5. Defiance. Before Defiance, director Edward Zwick is arguably best known for directing other war films Glory and The Last Samurai. The former is a fantastic film complete with powerhouse performances from Denzel Washington and Morgan Freeman, while the latter is about Tom Cruise playing samurai in 19th century Japan. So, a bit of a swing and a miss for old Zwick, but he did bring another compelling war drama to screens in 2008 with Defiance, a Daniel Craig-fronted feature that revolved around the Bielski partisans, Jewish resistance fighters who fought the Nazis in Germany-occupied Poland, and ended up saving hundreds of Jewish people from the Holocaust. Like plenty of war films before it, Defiance plays fast and loose with history in the name of excitement, but that doesn't detract from the fact it tells a fascinating story that not too many people will be familiar with. Number 4. Buffalo Soldiers. Ned Kelly director Gregor Jordan may have the least lucky career in cinema history. The talented Helmer has created some superb flicks such as 1999's crime comedy Two Hands, and yet his 2008 adaptation of Bret Easton Ellis's short story collection The Informers is mostly known for costing its studio millions, as did this darkly comic war flick set in West Germany. Following the exploits of Joaquin Phoenix's amoral and terminally bored soldier, a deeply likable and equally deeply flawed specialist, the film sees his troop effectively wreck a small town, as well as dealing in some minor heroin distribution in what are effectively Animal House-style frat antics, only in the middle of a war zone. The film may be an acquired taste, but it's a brilliant image of what an actual war zone looks like in reality, much like HBO's acclaimed miniseries Generation Kill. However, the film inevitably ended up underrated when it was released soon after 9/11, resulting in the studio burying the flick due to its less than stellar depiction of the American Armed Forces. Number 3. Master and Commander: The Far Side of the World. Master and Commander is one of the best war films ever made, but also one that seemingly everyone slept on in the wake of its 2003 release. Although Peter Weir's Napoleonic epic was nominated for a total of 10 Academy Awards, taking home 2, Best Cinematography and Best Sound Editing, it released the same year as Pirates of the Caribbean, and it seems as though Hollywood only had room for one seafaring franchise thereafter. Master and Commander was based on one of the novels from Patrick O'Brian's Aubrey Martin series, and while plans were drawn up for a franchise of sorts based on all the books, they just never came to pass. Which sucks, because The Far Side of the World slaps. Russell Crowe is tremendous in the role of Captain Jack Aubrey, and is joined by Paul Bettany as Dr. Stephen Martin. The film renders 19th century naval warfare in stunning detail, capturing the cruel, unforgiving nature of cannon fire, but balancing it with a profound sense of adventure and discovery. It's expertly shot and superbly crafted, an imperious effort from Weir that deserves way more attention than it currently receives. Number 2. Tigerland. Joel Schumacher is one of the most underrated filmmakers of the modern era, and Tigerland is a testament to that statement. Yes, the man is responsible for Arnold Schwarzenegger's diabolical turn as Mr. Freeze, but that same year he helmed the intense snuff film 8mm, a wildly underrated psychological journey into darkness with a career best turn from Nicolas Cage. Meanwhile, the director's 2003 war movie Tigerland wasn't a major success upon release, outdone by the likes of Ridley Scott's more transparently flashy and intense Black Hawk Down. But upon a revisit, Tigerland is a tragic, tense portrait of soldiers under fire which benefits from a solid supporting cast, as well as star Colin Farrell's most underrated turn as its conflicted protagonist. And number 1. Three Kings. For fans of light-hearted Jennifer Lawrence vehicles such as Silver Linings Playbook and Joy, David O. Russell may be the last name you'd expect to see in the list of underrated war filmmakers. But 1999 saw the controversial director butt heads with his star George Clooney while shooting the surreal Gulf War satire / sort of heist film. And it's one of the I Heart Huckabees Helmer's best efforts, despite, or perhaps because of, the on-set tension. With an ensemble cast rounded out by a young Mark Wahlberg and a surly funny Ice Cube, the film uses the aimlessness of the First Gulf War in order to mock both the US military and the country's culture, as Clooney and co use the war as cover for some amoral antics of their own. Dark, funny, and pointed in its poignant critique of American foreign policy, this unusual gem deserves to be reappraised as a true war movie great after its director's recent late career revival. And that was our list. What war films do you think are criminally underrated? Let us know in the comments below, and please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Remember, you can find more articles like this at blockculture.com and more of me on Twitter at YouRuinsThings. That's all for now though. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye!